girlfriend, Emily, and I had been dating for over a year, and one of our favorite things was falling asleep together after a long day. Our routine was simple yet comforting. We'd cuddle up in bed, whisper about our day, and slowly drift off to sleep. This night was no different, or so I thought. We had both been dealing with a lot of stress lately. Emily was swamped with work, and I was juggling several projects that seemed to have no end in sight. We were looking forward to the weekend as a chance to unwind and spend some quality time together. Despite the stress, our evenings were a sanctuary of sorts, a brief escape from the chaos of daily life. That night, the air was cool and crisp, a typical autumn evening. We had the windows slightly open, letting in a gentle breeze that rustled the curtains. The soft hum of the city outside was oddly soothing. Emily and I curled up under our warm, thick blankets, our bodies nestled close for warmth and comfort. As we lay there, the glow of our bedside lamp casting a soft light around the room, we talked about our plans for the weekend. We were planning to go hiking, one of our favorite activities, and then maybe watch a movie we'd both been wanting to see. Our conversation was relaxed, filled with the kind of easygoing laughter that comes from knowing someone so well. Eventually, our words grew sparse, and the silence between us was filled with the gentle rhythm of our breathing. I felt Emily's body relax against mine as she began to drift off to sleep. I followed soon after, feeling the weight of the day lift from my shoulders as I surrendered to the embrace of sleep. It felt like just another ordinary night, comforting routine that we had shared countless times. Little did I know, this night would be anything but ordinary. It would be the beginning of an experience that would leave us both questioning our reality and our sense of safety in our own home. I woke suddenly to the sound of Emily's voice, cutting through the thick fog of sleep. Her tone was urgent, almost panicked. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. Groggily, I turned to look at her. She was sitting up in bed, eyes wide and filled with fear. The room was dimly lit by the street lamp outside, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. "What's wrong?" I asked, my heart beginning to race with the contagious anxiety in her voice. Emily shook her head, her breathing shallow and rapid. I thought I saw someone at the foot of the bed," she whispered, her eyes darting around the room as if she expected to see someone standing there. I felt a chill run down my spine. The house was silent, except for the faint hum of the city outside and our own breathing. "Are you sure?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Maybe you were dreaming." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Maybe. It just felt so real. I was half asleep, I guess. It was probably just my mind playing tricks on me." I reached out and took her hand, feeling the slight tremor in her fingers. "It's okay. It was just a dream," I reassured her, though I wasn't entirely convinced myself. The way she had spoken, the sheer terror in her voice, it had been so convincing. Emily took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Yeah, you're right. It was just a dream," she echoed, more to reassure herself than anything else. We lay back down, but the atmosphere in the room had shifted. Cozy warmth of moments earlier had been replaced by a lingering unease. I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close, and felt her body gradually relax against mine. The sound of her breathing eventually evened out, signaling that she had fallen back asleep. I, however, found it harder to drift off. My mind kept replaying her words, a look of fear in her eyes. I tried to rationalize it, stress a half-conscious hallucination, but it was difficult to shake the feeling of dread that had settled over me. After what felt like hours but was probably only a few minutes, I finally managed to quiet my thoughts and let sleep take over once more. As I drifted off, I told myself that it was just a dream, figment of our stressed-out minds. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, one that would soon grow into something far more terrifying. I woke up again, this time with a start. The room was eerily silent, kind of silence that makes you hyper-aware of every small sound. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and I felt a strange sense of unease wash over me. As I blinked into the dim light, I saw something that made my blood run cold. At the foot of the bed, there was a figure standing, barely illuminated by the faint glow from the street lamp outside. The figure was wrapped in our bed sheets, twisted and coiled around its neck like some grotesque scarf. My heart pounded in my chest and I felt frozen, unable to move or speak. The figure stood motionless, its presence heavy and oppressive. I wanted to scream, to reach out and touch Emily, to confirm that she was still beside me. My body wouldn't respond. Then, as if on autopilot, the words left my mouth. "What are you doing?" My voice was barely a whisper, trembling with fear. The figure didn't move, didn't react in any way. The silence stretched on, and the tension was unbearable. Suddenly, I felt a jolt. Emily shook me, her voice urgent in my ear. "Wake up! What are you doing?" I blinked, and the figure was gone. I was lying in bed, drenched in sweat, with Emily staring at me, her eyes wide with fear. "You were dreaming," she said, her voice a mix of concern and relief. "You were talking in your sleep, saying the exact same thing I did." My mind raced as I tried to process what had just happened. I had seen the exact same thing Emily had described earlier, down to the twisted sheets and the figure at the foot of the bed. And I had said the same words she had, as if we were caught in some shared nightmare. "Felt so real," I muttered, sitting up and running a hand through my hair. "I saw someone standing there, with the sheets twisted around them, just like you said." Emily's face went pale, and she hugged her knees to her chest. "What does it mean? How could we both dream the same thing?" "I don't know," I admitted, my voice shaky, "but it was just a dream. We're safe. There's no one here." We sat in silence for a few moments, the reality of what we had experienced sinking in. The room felt different now, the darkness heavier and more oppressive. I tried to reassure Emily, but the truth was I was just as scared and confused as she was. Eventually, we lay back down, both of us too unsettled to fall asleep easily. I kept my arm around her, holding her close, as if that could ward off whatever malevolent force seemed to be invading our dreams. We lay there, listening to the sounds of the city outside, and slowly, exhaustion took over. As I drifted off once more, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something far more sinister. The shared vision, the eerie similarity of our dreams. It all felt like a warning, a glimpse into something neither of us could fully understand. And I knew that whatever it wasn't over yet. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the bedroom that felt almost out of place after the night we had experienced. Emily and I lay there in silence for a while, neither of us wanting to break the fragile calm. Eventually, the need to understand what had happened drove us to speak. "Last night was weird," I started, struggling to find the right words. "We both had the same dream, did the same thing. That can't be a coincidence." Emily nodded, her face pale and drawn. "I know. Felt so real. I've never had a dream like that before, let alone one that we both shared." We sat up in bed trying to piece together the details. The figure, the twisted sheets, the exact same words spoken in the same frightened tone. It all added up to something that felt more than just a dream. "Maybe it was just stress," Emily suggested, though her voice lacked conviction. "We've both been under a lot of pressure lately. Our minds could be playing tricks on us." I nodded, wanting to believe it. "Yeah, maybe. Stress can do weird things." We were both exhausted. But as we talked, the sense of unease only grew. The logical explanations we tried to comfort ourselves with felt hollow, unable to dispel the lingering fear. There was an unspoken understanding between us that something deeper, something more unsettling was at play. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in our apartment became increasingly tense. I found myself glancing over my shoulder more often, feeling an inexplicable sense of being watched. Emily mentioned hearing faint noises in the middle of the night, creaks and whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. One evening, as we sat on the couch trying to distract ourselves with a movie, Emily suddenly froze, her eyes wide with fear. "Did you see that?" she whispered. I followed her gaze to the hallway. It was empty. "See what?" "I thought I saw a shadow move," she said, her voice shaking. "It was there just for a second." We both stared into the darkness of the hallway, the shadows playing tricks on our minds. I wanted to tell her it was just her imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was right. There was something in our home, something we couldn't see but could feel. Another night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the kitchen. I lay there, heart pounding, listening to the soft thuds of feet on the linoleum. Summoning my courage, I got up and crept towards the kitchen. Found nothing. The room was empty, and the only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator. When I told Emily about it the next morning, she looked at me with a mixture of fear and resignation. "It's not just us," she said. "Something is happening here. We can't keep ignoring it." Our once cozy apartment now felt alien. Every shadow and creak, potential threat. We tried to rationalize it, telling ourselves it was just stress or overactive imagination. But deep down, we knew something was wrong. The shared dream had been the catalyst. First sign that our safe haven was being invaded by something we couldn't explain. Now, every strange occurrence, every feeling of being watched, only confirmed growing fear. We were no longer alone in our home, and the unsettling realization that we were being haunted by something or someone left us in a state of constant dread. As the days passed, we became increasingly desperate for answers. Any explanation that could bring us back to some sense of normalcy. But the more we searched for reasons, the more elusive they became. Presence in our home was real, and it wasn't going away. And that realization was the most terrifying of all. The days following our shared nightmare were filled with a constant, gnawing unease. The apartment that had once been our sanctuary now felt like a prison. Every creak and shadow, a reminder of the terror we had experienced. Fear lingered, wrapping itself around us like a suffocating fog. Emily and I took steps to protect ourselves, hoping to reclaim some sense of normalcy and safety. We double-checked the locks on all the doors and windows, installed motion sensor lights outside, and even bought a security camera that we placed in the hallway. At night, we kept a baseball bat within reach, flimsy shield against the unknown. We also sought answers, desperate to understand what had happened. I spent hours researching online, reading about shared dreams, sleep paralysis, and paranormal encounters. We even considered the possibility of a gas leak or some other environmental factor that could be affecting our minds. Nothing seemed to fit. We talked to friends and family, careful not to reveal too much. We didn't want to sound crazy, but we hoped someone might have experienced something similar. The few who did listen to our story either dismissed it as stress-induced or suggested we were just feeding off each other's anxiety. The fear, however, was real. It manifested in subtle ways, in the way we jumped at small noises, the way our eyes darted around the room, and the way we clung to each other at night. Sleep became elusive, every creak of the house waking us up, hearts pounding in the darkness. One particularly chilling incident occurred a week later. Emily was home alone, and I was working late. She called me in a panic, saying she heard someone whispering her name. I rushed home, but of course found nothing. We spent that night huddled together, every noise amplified by our shared fear. Reflecting on the shared nightmare and the events that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. It was as if we had opened a door to another reality, one where the boundaries between dreams and waking life were blurred. The figure at the foot of our bed had been more than a dream. It had been a harbinger of the unease that now permeated our lives. Our sense of safety was shattered, and in its place was a constant vigilance, a hyper-awareness of our surroundings. We no longer felt at home in our own apartment. The fear had taken root, a dark presence that lingered in every corner and shadow. Even now, as I write this, I can't help but glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see that figure standing there, wrapped in twisted sheets. The memory of that night haunts us, a reminder that some fears are not easily banished. They stay with you, lurking in the back of your mind, waiting for the quiet moments to resurface. The experience has left us changed, our once carefree nights replaced by a wariness that I'm not sure will ever fully go away. The shared nightmare was just the beginning, a glimpse into a world of fear that still holds us in its grip. And though we try to move on, to reclaim our sense of normalcy, the lingering fear is a constant reminder that some things are beyond our understanding, always lurking just out of sight.